All right, let's dive into a tech mystery that is just fascinating. It's a story where the one setting that everyone recommends for top speed was actually, secretly, the very thing slowing a system down to a crawl. It really goes to show you, sometimes what we think of as a best practice can be anything but.
You know, this is the kind of question that should send a little shiver down the spine of any sysadmin. I mean, imagine you've done everything right. You followed all the guides, you picked the high-performance options, but your users are still telling you things feel slow. So what if the very setting you flipped on for a speed boost was the trap?
And that brings us to the first act of our story. We're calling this one the Phantom Slowdown, because that's exactly what it was, a problem that nobody could see on any of the standard tools. So the complaints started rolling in, and they were all frustratingly vague but consistent. Users said the remote sessions felt laggy, applications would just hesitate for a moment. Even small tasks felt heavy, you know? But here's the real kicker. Every single monitoring dashboard, all the graphs, they were completely green, calm. No warning lights, no alarms, just this gut feeling that something was really, really wrong.
And let's set the scene, because the hardware itself was totally solid. We're talking about a Windows remote desktop server running on a pretty beefy Xeon processor. On paper, this machine should have been an absolute beast, just flying through its work for the dozen or so people using it. But it wasn't.
So the hunt began. The team started what felt like chasing digital ghosts, trying to track down a problem that was completely invisible to all of their monitoring software.
And this, right here, is what made the whole thing so maddening. Just look at these system vitals. The CPU is barely breaking a sweat, sitting pretty at 16%. Memory usage, a comfortable 37%. By all accounts, this server was basically bored. So why on earth did it feel so sluggish to the actual humans using it?
Eventually, the investigation zeroed in on one single setting, the CPU mode in Proxmox. It was set to host, which, sounds like the best option you could possibly pick. It literally passes the physical CPU's exact features right into the virtual machine. Countless guides recommend it for getting every last drop of performance. It seemed like the most obvious, correct choice.
But here's the twist. As one of the engineers on the case put it, following that exact guidance, that common wisdom, is what actually made the Windows VM slower. And this is where a simple performance puzzle turns into a really counterintuitive trap.
The big breakthrough didn't come from a performance metric. Nope. It came from a totally unexpected place: security. It turns out the problem wasn't about raw power at all. It was about how the virtual machine was interpreting signals from the physical hardware.
Okay, so to really get this, we need to talk for a second about CPU security mitigations. These are basically software patches that operating systems use to protect us from nasty hardware bugs like Spectre in Meltdown. Now, they are absolutely essential for security, but they work by adding a bunch of extra checks and balances, and each one of those checks can add a tiny bit of delay, which can really, really add up.
And right here on this slide, this is the absolute heart of the problem. See, when you set the CPU mode to host, Proxmox tells the Windows VM everything about the physical CPU, and that includes all of its potential security vulnerabilities. Windows sees these flags and, kind of panicking, it turns on its heaviest, most performance-sapping security measures. But when you use a more generic mode like x86-64v3, the Proxmox hypervisor handles all that security stuff itself. It basically presents a clean, sanitized CPU to Windows, so the OS doesn't feel the need to flip on all those extra, costly layers of protection.
So the theory was solid, but you know how it is. You need proof. They needed to find the actual data, the smoking gun that was hiding from the dashboards, to prove that host mode was really the bad guy here.
And here's the crucial discovery. The performance penalty wasn't about CPU cycles at all. It was hiding in latency. Specifically, the time it takes for the CPU to access memory. Now, that's not a number that usually shows up on your main dashboard, but it has a huge impact on how responsive and snappy a system feels. And when they finally measured it, wow, the numbers were just staggering. With the CPU mode set to host, the memory latency was a whopping 2,000 nanoseconds.
And after they applied the fix, it plummeted to just 100 nanoseconds. We're not talking about a small improvement here. That is a 20-fold increase in speed. Just incredible.
And for a remote desktop server, that kind of latency is an absolute killer. Think about it. Every single mouse click, every window you drag, every letter you type, it all relies on thousands of tiny, super-fast memory operations.
A 20x slowdown on every single one of those is the difference between a system that feels instant and one that feels like you're trying to run through deep mud.
So after all that complex digging, after chasing those digital ghosts and diving deep into security flags, the solution itself, well, it was almost laughably simple. And here it is. Just 4 easy steps. You power down the virtual machine, you pop over to hardware, then processors, you change the CPU type from host to x86-64v3, and you power it back on. That's it. That's the whole fix. The phantom slowdown vanished, and the user experience snapped right back to normal.
Now, it's important to add a little nuance here. It's not as simple as just blaming Proxmox. The tech community has a few different takes. Some people argue this is really a Windows problem, that its security strategy is just way too aggressive. Others correctly point out that a lot of online guides are just plain outdated and don't factor this stuff in. And another great point is that the real-world impact can change a lot depending on your specific physical CPU and whether it has hardware fixes for these bugs. It's a complex dance between all these parts.
And that really brings us to the most powerful lesson from this whole saga. The biggest performance win didn't come from buying faster hardware or spending more money. It came from just finding and fixing one single setting that was causing the entire system to basically fight with itself.
Which leaves us with one final thought. We all lean on best practices and common wisdom to get our jobs done, right? But this story is such a perfect reminder that sometimes those accepted truths are just flat out wrong, or at least outdated. So the question I'll leave you with is this: what best practice will you question next?